Because didn't you tweet something earlier that was like Twitter has its moments, but Instagram comments are crazy?
Yeah.
Man, I wanted to rant about that shit too. Oh my God, something about this week. Something about this week. And the grown-ass men in our fucking comments.
No, it's actually disgusting. It's actually disgusting. Like, we will post something on Instagram, a pretty innocuous take. Like, we posted our take on Trump
Commandments.
Trump being Dunzo, or the 10 Commandments shouldn't be in the classroom, like a super hot take. Or it's not even a take, it's just us covering a piece of news. And then we get, grown-ass men in their 30s with profile, they got like 60 followers on Instagram commenting like, these guys are clueless.
Yeah.
Or they'll write us a fucking essay that they expect me to read.
Dude, no, one, I'm not reading all that. Two, you're in our fucking Instagram comment sections. Instagram Reels, one, which is crazy. You're like, go hang out with your family, right?
Right.
You're 50 and on Instagram Reels. That says enough about it. But then you go and drop like a 500-word dissertation about how actually America is built upon Judeo-Christian values, and that's why we need the 10 Commandments in the classroom.
It's just not true.
And then, oh my God, there was some other guy that kept just like arguing with us, and he would come into different comment threads to try and argue with us. He was saying some shit about how like, because Jeremy responded, he's like, it's good to teach kids that you shouldn't steal and kill, but also we don't need to do that through teaching them the 10 Commandments. We can just teach them that. And this guy's like, really? You liberals don't even understand how much of hypocrites you are. You know, religion is the foundation for society, right? Unironically, he's like, when you talk about stealing and killing being wrong, you're spewing religious ideology. That's what he fucking said. Like, come on, dog.
Like religious religions throughout the world today share so many similarities between what they teach, like the rudimentary foundational principles. You know, don't kill each other, don't steal. Some of them have regulations of like what you're allowed to eat, what you're allowed to wear. Those are all very similar.
Yeah.
I could just as well make the argument that like our modern society is built on Islamic principles, and he wouldn't accept that argument.
Absolutely not.
Even if I could point to things that are correlated with the teachings of Islam.
My God. And it's also like, you know, people generally thought that it was bad to steal and kill before Moses brought down the 10 Commandments. Like, oh my God, that shit blew my mind this week. But what else has been blowing my mind? I don't know what. Maybe I've just been too chronically online, or I guess too online with regards to us. I was just doom scrolling on Twitter this morning, right?
Oh my God, it's like I've had to cut myself off from Twitter in the morning. It used to be just my gut reaction to, you know, check our notifications on Twitter, see what's going on. I can't do that anymore. It's so bad.
No, it's awful. It sucked me in today. That shit got me for like an hour and a half. I was just scrolling through, and our Twitter feed today, all it was just RFK Jr. discourse.
Oh, it's topical. We talked about it last week.
We did. We talked about how he's like anti-vax and crazy. Yeah. Apparently Joe Rogan had him on again, and he's like, you know, RFK, I used to think that the things you said were bonkers, but then I really started thinking, and I really looked into it, and I decided that you're pretty right about all these things.
For Joe Rogan, him saying he's thinking doesn't tell us much, to be honest.
No, it does
give
not
us any idea of what's happening.
Oh my God. And anyway, Joe Rogan had RFK on. He spewed like vaccine misinformation, things that credible doctors, pretty much all of them, are going to tell you are misinformation. And some guy, I think it's like Peter Hose, some doctor, got on, and he's like, Joe, this is misinformation. And Joe Rogan clapped back and said something along that. I'll give you $100,000 to come on the show, and I'll give $100,000 to a charity of your choice to come on the show and debate RFK Jr. about this. If you're so right, if you know so much about the science. This guy's an actual like scientist, mind you. You know what I mean? Not RFK.
Yeah.
Not just like a fail son. Anyway, and then a bunch of other conservatives hopped on. Elon Musk is in there like, oh, well, if you're so right, why don't you debate?
Yeah.
Why don't you debate? And it's just, it spiraled conservatives into this whole like discourse about like marketplace of ideas discourse, really. Right. Oh my goodness.
You're not entitled to a debate. Like he was basically saying, if you don't come debate me, then it's true that vaccines cause autism. Yeah. It's not how that works.
Because that's the line. And that's like the reaction I've seen from like conservatives on Reddit. These motherfuckers are going in there like, well, you should be able to defend your ideas if they're worth any salt. Yeah. Like if what you're saying is true, then you should be able to debate them. In fact, you're obligated to debate them. No, you're not.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is that when it comes to scientists and vaccines, certainly we have structures already in place that detail exactly how vaccines work. It's like peer-reviewed studies. Yeah. It's regulations for experiment, that kind of thing. That's how we prove when things work. You don't prove it by going and doing a debate, especially because nowadays, more than ever, I would think, debates aren't really about who's right. It's about who can sell their points the best using rhetoric as a tool. And just because you can use rhetoric doesn't mean you're correct. Like Ben Shapiro knows how to use rhetoric to his advantage and kind of steamroll opponents when they don't know what they're doing. But that doesn't mean anything that he says is correct. And that's exactly what Joe Rogan wants to do. He wants to have this guy come on. Like most scientists, I would bet, aren't skilled rhetoricians. Like, no, they don't know what they're doing in a debate. And they shouldn't have to know what they're doing in a debate. Their job isn't to debate people. It's to write papers and do experiments on things to increase our knowledge of the world and expand what we're able to do with different technology and when it comes to vaccines, medicine. Like they're not supposed to be debating. What are you doing?
Like Jeremy said, they're not trained in rhetoric, right? And like what modern debate has really come down to is just entertainment. And it really is about who can be the most entertaining. And when you're a scientist who, I don't know if this guy does a lot of media, but if you're just a regular scientist who doesn't do a lot of media, just does your science and does it well, you're not going to be as, I don't know, media trained as a Kennedy.
Yeah. Or as a politician in general, right?
Exactly, right? And it's so much easier to get on and spew bullshit than it is to get on and be like, well, actually, you know, when we look at the correlations, when we look at the R values, when you look at all these, when you look at our two-way ANOVAs, our one-way ANOVA examples, we see that this has this correlation, but this correlation, that's not entertaining. No one's going to want to listen to that, especially Joe Rogan's audience.
What Joe Rogan's going to do is bring up these extremely niche cases that only empty-brained political provocateurs would really understand. People like us. Of course, the only like people engaged in politics would really get, and then the doctor's not gonna be able to dispel them, or the scientist isn't gonna be able to dispel them because they're not debate lords, and they shouldn't. Like we should not build a world where our scientists feel like they need to debate people. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's like what would happen? What would realistically 95% happen if he was to get on and debate RFK Jr. is he's going to say something, you know, backed by peer-reviewed science, and then RFK is going to say, well, what about this person I know that this happened to? What about this person I know that got myocarditis? And he's going to be like, well, that's like an outlier. These are people. These are anecdotes. We're talking about broad statistics in the whole population. And he's like, well, actually, I seem to have like a bunch of anecdotes. Like these anecdotes are adding up. And when you say like, oh yeah, there are these 20 people that I know that this happened to, that sounds like a lot when you're just listening to a podcast and you've never been trained in scientific reasoning.
Yeah. And a lot of the time, people like RFK, when they come on like a Joe Rogan podcast, like to bring up statistics that have been debunked for like 5 years.
But they
bring them up again because people forget that they've been debunked. They forget exactly what like sources have debunked them and what information was used to do the debunking, and people just kind of forget about it and they bring them up again. Like these people aren't actually interested in finding the truth. They're just grifters. Or in RFK's case, he might just be fucking crazy.
And you're also just like, you're on the Joe Rogan experience.
Right.
There's no obligation by the Joe Rogan experience to come through with the most scientific data to actively fact check everything that's being said while it's going on, unless it's about weed.
Right. Well, yeah.
Unless it's about weed, then Joe's gonna go.
Or it's people fact checking you about like how many trans surgeries there's been.
Exactly.
In the United
They're
States
only fact checking to further the conservative cause that's on the show in any given moment. That shit, it's ridiculous.
I think I maintain my position that Joe Rogan's just kind of stupid.
Yeah.
I don't think he's actively malicious.
He's just a guy.
Maybe now. Maybe something is changing where he's becoming like a bit worse. But I think for the most part, he's just dumb.
I don't think he's actively malicious in like the way that a politician is malicious. I just think he just doesn't know what he's doing.
I think because
he just believes these things.
His seeming inability to think critically aligns him pretty easily with conservatives that want to manipulate that trait of his, that he doesn't engage in very much critical thinking. And it's easy for them to do so because he will bring on people who are very much in the minority opinion and act and give them a platform which kind of provides the effect that they have a much larger voice than they usually should.
Pretty much exclusively like bringing on conservatives.
Exactly. Like back during COVID or when COVID was still being more heavily debated, he would bring on lots of conservative doctors or doctors who had straight up lost their licenses who would agree with the more conservative position that the vaccines don't work or the lockdowns are bad or whatever, while like 95% of doctors disagreed with them. But those 95 never really got a platform, or they'd get an equal platform to make it seem as though these two ideas are equal in weight. And he gave him both the same amount of credence, and it's like these aren't the same things. Like you can't treat them equally.
Yeah,
that's always been the problem with Joe Rogan, though. It's not new.
He's just a guy.
Yeah,
and sometimes being just a guy is kind of bad for politics.
Yeah, he's not a very responsible
platform
influencer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like you got to be responsible with the ideas you platform, especially him, because he's the most listened to podcast in the world, probably
something like that,
or at least it was at some point. Like you got to be careful, and I don't think he's very careful.
Absolutely not. But it's just like even outside of this like RFK Jr. like things, right? The vaccine misinformation discourse led people like Candace Owens on Twitter to just revive discourse that I thought died 10 years ago.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, everybody start talking about how vaccines cause autism again. Where the fuck did this come from?
I know.
What is going on, people?
No, we're straight up regressing as a society.
So that was blowing my mind. And then I just wanted to highlight, just to top off this whole like Twitter discussion, this one tweet that I saw earlier today that really, really caught my mind, right? This one's by Joey Manarino, some dude that's just been popping up on our feed. We don't follow him, but you know how Elon's takeover went. And this guy tweeted, "I thought Bud Light was bad, but Barefoot has taken it to the next level. They have pronouns on their bottles now, and they didn't stop at the usual. They even added ZM. I think it's time to boycott this crap immediately. And we already know what the secret ingredient is." And then it's a picture of Barefoot bubbly sweet rosé.
It's wine.
Dog,
what
come
are you
on.
doing?
Like, come on. Like the Bud Light boycott worked because the aesthetics of beer and the aesthetics of like traditional conservatism and masculinity have a pretty big overlap, right? I don't think you're getting that with bubbly sweet rosé.
Well, the idea is that like beer is the masculine alcohol, right?
Yeah.
Especially Bud Light. It's viewed as like the more masculine, I don't know,
working
like
class
redneck,
beer,
rural,
whatever,
working class kind of drink. If someone's going for a rosé,
a bubbly sweet rosé,
I'm not thinking like, oh yeah, that's the peak of masculinity.
That's a blue collar worker right there.
I'm not saying that like you lose your masculinity if you drink
Absolutely.
that.
I'm a wine guy.
It's all about the perception.
I'm a wine guy.
And how these things are consumed, right?
Because that's
it's so
why
stupid.
that boycott worked.
Yeah.
The whole reason why the boycott worked is because what Bud Light was doing seemed to be anti the aesthetics of what beer like is. But it's sweet, bubbly rosé. Like, come on, bruh. Come on. And you know what the secret ingredient is? What does that mean? Are we doing the whole like, oh, gay guys are beating off into Starbucks discourse
Are we
again?
saying it's semen? Come on.
Are we saying it's semen?
Let's be honest.
Is that what it is? Like, you're holding a bottle of rosé, trying to say like that's come on.
They seem to forget that like the gays drink alcohol.
Yeah,
you know, like they're human beings, right? Like they're not that different from like they're not that different from you and I.
Exactly.
Right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like people drink. I don't know. It's so stupid.
They're making us regress into like, I don't know, 2010 levels of discourse when it comes to like, guys, gay people, they're just regular people.
Yeah, why do I have to say that?
Why is this something that needs to be stated? Jesus Christ. But shout out Joey or whatever the fuck his name is.
One other thing I did love on Twitter was the Matt Walsh Fox News expose.
Oh, that was so good.
Where he went through, it was like a 12 tweet thread of just different things that Fox News is doing to go woke. And I don't know how you can really make this argument that they've gone woke because whatever DEI programs they're doing seemingly do not impact how they cover the news whatsoever. And there is no trickle up effect that's going on here.
They listed a bunch of DEI programs that they were engaging in, like what they encouraged employees to donate to the Trevor Project.
The Trevor Project, which is a crisis hotline for LGBTQ people.
They encouraged people to read books to alter their perspectives on like LGBTQ issues and widen their intellectual horizons.
Renaissance concept reading to expand the mind.
They encourage people to get like these specific like children's books that were like allegorical for coming out and why that's okay. At Fox News.
Yeah, and like that was like it. They also had like some AI thing that was tracking how you adhere to like DEI initiatives and stuff like that. Like if you're being homophobic in the email chain, which I gotta guess is pervasive at Fox News. But it's like that kind of thing. And like I don't fuck with AI in the workplace, obviously. Absolutely. But beyond that, it was pretty basic company shit to do. And it's Fox News.
And like, it's also like it's not working.
Yeah. Like you're going to sit here and tell me that Fox News has gone woke?
Yeah.
You're out of your fucking mind.
It's like the same thing that they were doing with Tucker Carlson is vaccinated. Like he had to be vaccinated. We covered it. They all have to be vaccinated to work at Fox News. They adhered to the mandates, except this one is like, I don't know, this one feels more woke.
Well, I think the problem they're running into is that I guess similar to really how every generation comes after the previous generation, right? Even the young conservatives today, like Gen Z millennial conservatives, are fairly open to LGBTQ people. Like they may be on the anti-trans train,
like the regular
moral
ones.
panic campaign. Like they obviously might be joining in as a part of that. But generally speaking, they're not as blatantly, explicitly anti-LGBTQ as like the older generation is. And
it's like they have
Fox
black
News
friends.
is gonna Well, and it's just, well, you can even look at older generations when like desegregation was happening, right?
Yeah.
You had the generation that was used to segregation that was pissed about it, and the newer generations were like okay with it, but still probably racist, right? It's like the similar kind of dynamic. But the problem is, Fox News is a media company. Media relies on technology and art as much as you can call it art, right? So in creativity. That's like the field of young people right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like Fox News is hiring young people. They got to hire young people. And some of those young people are going to be LGBTQ and they're going to be out about it. And if you make your workplace openly hostile to those people, as I'm guessing Fox News does, then your company's not going to do too well. Like, what does Matt Walsh not want Fox News to never hire an LGBTQ youth person? Like, I mean, what are we doing?
I mean, if we're talking about what Matt Walsh personally wants, yes.
Right, but that's it's like the free market. Like, I don't know what. It's just such a silly line of argument. I don't understand where he's going with
It's
that.
funny. Like, it's funny to dunk on Fox News for doing all these things behind the scenes when the things that hit the primetime channels don't match that at all.
Right, and nothing's changed.
Nothing's
Fox
changed.
News didn't do a Pride logo. Like, what are we talking about?
It's a bit ridiculous, and it's funny to see that they're doing all this behind the scenes while also having Laura Ingraham come on and talk about how everyone else is doing these things and why that's wrong.
Yeah.
Goofy.
It's always hypocrisy. Fox News can't trust them.
That's goofy.
Twitter as a whole can't trust them.
I also saw a funny thread on Twitter about why it's gay for men to cry at their wedding.
Oh, classic.
That was a banger.
Oh, you're literally marrying a woman and you cried? That's gay.
Yeah, wow. The happiest day of your life and you're going to shed a tear of joy.
It's so gay.
That's gay. And then at the end of her thread, she listed out to her Substack where she was advertising a Substack like blog article, whatever that she wrote that was titled "Why Men Being in Therapy is Gay."
Jesus Christ.
Who the fuck
my
are
God.
you?
No wonder mental illness
Are you a
is pervasive
13-year-old boy
country.
from like 10 years ago? What's going on?
Well, and it's like when they say that, they mean gay equals bad, right? They're using it in a derogatory
absolutely.
sense pretty obviously. And they're saying getting therapy or being happy at your wedding, so happy that you cry, is both of those are bad things.
Holy shit, it was good. And then in the thread, she's like, yeah, men should only cry when, like, I don't know, somebody dies. But not at a funeral. Not at a funeral, not when your kid is born. That's emasculating. And then she took it into a turn where it's like, this is how modern women emasculate men, and this is a product of the modern feminist movement.
Holy moly.
Like, fuck, dude.
No wonder, like, the Gen Xers and the boomer men are just brain broken.
Yeah.
They can't share their feelings at all. Like, no one, so
not
many
even at
men
a
in this
funeral?
country.
Oh, your mom died? Shit, dude.
Don't cry in front of others.
Tough luck.
Yeah, you just can't. Oh my God. No wonder men are so awful in this goddamn country. What a horrible place to live. I just generally though, before we get into the episode, our Twitter feed has been so disgusting. And
horrible.
Like, I know it's pretty common for people to just,
if you couldn't tell,
hate on Twitter, and like there's reasons for it, right? It deserves it, obviously. But I have noticed, and I'm not just saying this to jump on the hate train against Elon Musk. I have genuinely noticed that our feed is so much worse than it was before Elon Musk took over. It's like, so bad.
We obviously intentionally follow a lot of right-wing accounts just so we can like engage with them and make fun of them. Mm-hmm. But we also follow a lot of just like regular accounts, a lot of shit posters. And their shit does not get pushed to the top of our feed. I have to scroll so long before I see something Juniper posted. Yeah. Like, come on. But every day, it's like that dumbass
Bridget
that
Gabriel.
I just talked about. Bridget Gabriel.
Yeah, Bridget Gabriel.
Isabel something that always tweets about anti-feminism. Or now we got Vivek. I followed him though.
And I swear like 70% of the accounts that we see we don't follow.
Absolutely not.
It's
Absolutely
bad.
Not.
It's really bad. So stay away from Twitter. Bad state of affairs over there.
For real.
You don't want to do that. Anyway.
Welcome back to the show, everybody.
Welcome back to Head in the Office. We've got quite the loaded episode for you all today. We got to talk a little bit about Trump and his indictment, a little update in terms of the GOP election as well. But
that's right.
The main focus, the meat of this episode, if you will, is going to be anti-LGBTQ legislation.
You knew what was coming.
It's really bad this week. We got a hit from about a month ago now that we didn't fully cover, that we kind of talked about a little bit last episode. It's from Florida. We'll talk about that one. We got a story from our home state of Michigan that we'll talk about.
That's right.
One that was boosted to us by a member of our Discord, actually.
Hope coming out of Utah a little bit.
Yeah. We got some Beyond Parody to round out the episode for you all. We got some crazy laws. Just generally pretty wild episode.
Believe you me when I say we have some Beyond Parody today.
If you're listening early, on Sunday, as our Sunday superstars do through the Patreon. You may notice that our upload's a little bit later than normal. That's because we were fucking around with the studio for so long.
That's right.
We were installing these new mic arms that we just got through the Patreon money that you also generously give us.
This is all you guys.
So if you notice, it's like an hour and a half later. That's because we were upgrading the studio a little bit. And if you want to help us,
bitch to get these set
yeah,
up,
it was kind of annoying.
Oh my god,
money well spent though. And if you want to help us spend more money well, you can head over to the Patreon, become a patron, maybe get access to early episodes if you want. We got some cool stuff coming down the pipe pretty soon. We're
some
almost
plans.
ready to announce.
I got some plans that I can't clue you in on, but just know that the gears are turning. Machinations in the background are happening and moving along.
Precisely. So if you want to help us continue to upgrade the studio, do fun things like guest episodes or live stream stuff like that, then head over to the Patreon, become a patron. It's smooth sailing. That's all I'm going to say.
You know what to do, and you know where to go. And as always, if you want to support the show completely for free, you can follow us on Twitter.
That's right.
On Instagram, on TikTok. Go to our Discord.
Smash that like button on YouTube.
Smash that like button.
Leave
subscribe. Leave a comment. It all helps engagement.
And you know what? If you enjoy the show, we need you to leave comments because we are fighting for our lives on our own in the comment section of everything we post nowadays.
Why can't you come defend your favorite content creator in the Instagram comments, huh? Anyway, I digress. But also, importantly, if you want to help the show, make sure to leave a 5-star review on Apple. Just like these wonderful people that we're gonna read out their reviews.
Yeah, we got 2 reviews to read today. The first one is by Sassy Dash, the woke liberal media at its best. Sassy Dash says, I keep seeing clips on TikTok and I finally decided to listen to the pod in full as a poli-sci major just like me way back in undergrad. I love the commentary on current issues and I appreciate the use of humor to make the news a little less bleak. I'm now a fan and if I wasn't a broke college student, I would support the Patreon. I'm from New York, not the good part, the Republican part.
Oh, the George Santos part?
Maybe Long Island. From the Republican part and often feel like I'm the only leftist there, so it's nice to listen to people with a similar mindset. I've been locked into the Trump indictment news. Just like Trump locked up. I've been locked in to the Trump indictment news, and I'm excited to hear what you guys say as the story progresses. Great pod, definitely one of my favorites. We do have a follow-up on the Trump indictment news. A little clip that I found that I thought was a gem.
Some gas Trump news came out this week. Oh my goodness. But anyway, this next review, Love It and Happy Pride by Akatsuki1996. I enjoyed the discussion talked here, and it gives me more insight into political things that I haven't thought about before or made me look at it from a different angle. And in the wake of Pride Month, theoretically speaking, if Jeremy was gay, I would date him in a heartbeat.
Oh, what a kind
I wonder how I would be able to make him smile, though. I hope he takes this as a compliment.
You know what would make me smile?
If you went on over to patreon.com/InTheOffice.
That's a surefire way to make me happy.
That's
Head
right.
over to the Patreon.
As soon as I see that, see your username pop up really on that new patron list, just
I also, one thing that makes me really happy, smile, just a full teeth grin, ear to ear, is when you guys share the podcast with your friends.
Yes.
And then we get DMs like, my friend told me to listen to this, or my coworker told me to listen to this.
Oh,
this makes me happy.
We have got a couple of those. Those are crazy.
The Hiddo Media Network is spreading its fangs and getting its tentacles in every reach of the planet.
And then when y'all send us screenshots of your text with your friends, and they're like, oh my God, I listened to that Head in the Office podcast, and it was really good.
Yeah. If you listen back to like old politician speeches from like the 60s and 70s in the United States, they're talking about like the global scourge of communism. I want us to be the global scourge of Hiddoism. I want politicians to fear us. I want laws made that regulate what we can do. I want ordinances, local ordinances that ban Hiddo in various sections of the country.
I want Sweetwater to ban us from being able to buy equipment.
Yeah, I want sanctuary cities created for Hiddo listeners, refugees that are fleeing political persecution.
Absolutely, precisely.
That's the kind of thing I want to see, but that can only happen if you share the podcast.
I want to be the specter haunting the U.S.
Yeah, precisely.
If I'm to put it in my own words.
Let's get into the news this week. So the last week we covered Trump's second indictment in meticulous detail. Of course, the ones where he was sharing state secrets that he revealed to people with no security clearance, improperly storing documents.
Another clip we dropped on the Instagram that people just fucking went off on. So many people in the comments were just like, he's the president. He can declassify whatever he wants. He can't... Oh my God!
Well, the problem is like he as president, you can declassify stuff, of course,
but you can't just say this is declassified, right? And then it's declassified.
Well, because the point of classification is like people know what categories they're allowed to see, right?
Yeah.
And if they have no idea that you classified or declassified certain things, it kind of disrupts the process.
You quite literally have to go through a process where it's just, hey, this is what I want to declassify. Okay, cool.
Even if we accept the premise that Trump can, even if we accept the premise that he can just think it, and it's declassified. In the audio recordings that were included within the indictment, he said, I didn't declassify this as president. It's secret, but look at it. He admits it. We got him on tape. Like, it's over, right? Like, we got him. The only way I can see him getting out of this is if the judge is just super Trump aligned and refuses to do anything or just like gets him out of it somehow, does something fucky with the law. Or, you know, if we can't get a jury that isn't just fully Trumpers.
It's like, there's also like safeguards against that. Like, I know they have something in place where they can just expedite the appeals process and just immediately go to appeal if they want to.
Oh, and they will. Right.
There's also like, it'd be so gas if he's like, yeah, I actually did declassify this information. I just wanted somebody to like me. I just told them it was classified.
Well, on that topic, after his court appearance last Tuesday in Miami, he turned this indictment that he had to show up for into a campaign stop where he gave a pretty long speech about how he's innocent. And then he also went to the Bedminster Club in New Jersey, which ironically is where he spilled all of the classified information.
Oh, for real?
Same place. And we got, it was like a 30-minute speech that was done through C-SPAN. That's where I got like this clip from.
Returning to the scene of the crime.
But I got
mid-trial.
Yeah, I got quite the banger clip to play for you all. It's about 20 seconds. Trump giving his speech.
Oh, I can't wait.
Let me boot this up.
Hillary Clinton broke the law, and she didn't get indicted. Joe Biden broke the law, and in many other ways we're finding out, and so far has not gotten indicted. I did everything right, and they indicted me.
That's it. I did everything right and they indicted me. I felt like that was perfect.
My goodness, he sounds so defeated.
Yeah, no, he's not
Maybe
happy.
he knows, because I know another lawyer just dropped from his team.
Yeah, was that a third one?
I think
on top
so.
of the two that already left?
I had seen something else about like, another Trump lawyer just drops. Wow. Maybe it was the same one, maybe not. I wouldn't be surprised. Really.
Yeah, no, it's Jover.
Bro's
right?
fucked.
Like it's Jover. It's never been more Jover.
It's never,
right
ever.
The arguments that Trump kind of outlined in it. Well, okay, first of all, the speech he gave, I didn't watch all of it, but I saw a lot of clips on Twitter and other various platforms. And he kind of like admits to a lot of the things he was being indicted for, like showing like he admits to like having the documents basically. Yeah. But he's still making the I declassified them all, or I was allowed to do this, or this doesn't fall under the Espionage Act or whatever.
But it's like you weren't.
Right.
Straight up, you just weren't.
And he's also saying like, oh well, Biden's corrupt, and like that's not an argument you can make in court. Yeah. That doesn't work.
You can't go to court and say this is a witch trial. This is a witch hunt.
Yeah, he did the classic thing where he's like, well, I didn't have these documents, but I could have. He said that, which is great. Again, not really going to work in court, but I thought it was quite amusing.
Really, Your Honor, what's if the president has the broad ability to declassify documents, right? Hear me out, Your Honor. What really is the difference between him just saying it and not? Why couldn't he just declassify it out of office? Why couldn't he just talk about that? Because really, like, he could have just done this at any time.
Yeah.
So, Your Honor.
And, the ability to declassify with your mind would imply the ability to classify with your mind. So hear me out. What if Biden classified them all again in his mind without telling anyone as soon as he took office?
You see, Biden wouldn't actually be able to do that, right? Because, Your Honor, again, hear me out.
It's Sleepy Joe. He can't think. His mind doesn't work.
Trump actually classified all the information that Joe said during his campaign, so he's really the one on trial here.
Yeah,
Your Honor, I rest my case.
Go get him.
Your Honor, I'm done.
You may be asking, how is this impacting the would-be hopefuls of the 2024 GOP primary? Like, how is this affecting the race? It's a pretty big indictment.
It is.
Could be having a pretty big effect.
It's not.
Trump is still far and away the front runner for the presidency, despite the two indictments that he's gotten. He's still the front runner in the GOP primary, of course. Politico said that in the three most recent national surveys, Trump is still maintaining 50% or higher in each of the polls. And he's still leading DeSantis, who's the one in second place, by more than 30 points. And for context, DeSantis was at 23% in a recent poll, which is near the same percent that he was at before he announced. So he's experienced an increase after getting the bump from his announcement, and then he lost all of the progress he made.
That's so
in
cool.
the polls.
The only thing I've heard about from DeSantis is that he said some shit like, I'm going to clean out the FBI as soon as I win the presidency.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, who cares?
That's what I'm saying. Like, is this really the rhetoric that's going to win over like the moderates that you need to actually win the election?
I mean, and it's like most of what DeSantis is saying outside of wokeness, right? Like that's like the DeSantis thing is wokeness, or Florida is where wokeness goes to die, right?
Exactly.
Like, and he wants to turn the United States into Florida.
I hate gay people.
Every other position is Trump's position. Like
and he
clean
does
out
it
the
better.
FBI,
and he talks about
build
it better.
the wall, immigrate. Like everything else is from Donald Trump.
And it's
so I don't
also
know what
like,
he's doing.
DeSantis, why do you want to clean out the FBI now? Oh, because they're engaging in partisan witch hunts. Against who?
Right.
Donald Trump.
Yeah,
like, you only want to do this because of Trump. Like, everything that he's doing just derives from Trump, and it's worse, and he has no charisma.
Right.
And he can't even get himself in the headlines, really.
And if the corrupt FBI is going after Donald Trump, the front runner on your side of the political aisle, doesn't that tell you that maybe he should be the president if he's so important?
Like, shouldn't you align yourself with Trump? Like, are you really getting on stage and being like, yeah, FBI, they're engaging in witch hunts against former President Trump, but guys, he's not the guy for the job, though. He's really not the guy for the job, but it's still me. I'm the guy for the job.
I don't know.
You can't get his name out your mouth.
Yeah, how do you get out of that? And none of them have gone to attack Trump. I would think this is the perfect time to attack Trump, right?
Yeah. Well, Chris Christie has.
Chris
Christie went on to CNN town hall.
I mean, nobody relevant is doing anything, right? Like, now...
Well, until John Bolton enters the race. True. I'm cruising with Christie.
Well, as soon as John Bolton enters the race, it's going to be like 70% for him in the polls.
Well, of course, but right now I'm cruising for Christie.
Oh, okay. You're cruising for Christie.
Christie.
I don't know if I can get on board.
Cruising with Christie, really.
Yeah. You joined his campaign?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what DeSantis is doing. No one's really throwing punches. I would think now is the time to do something to hit Trump, because like audio recordings, nobody sounds good on those. When you just capture him saying something awful.
Absolutely.
Nobody looks good on security footage. You know what I mean? Like, now is the time to be like, oh yeah, he's corrupt. But like they just can't do it. They can't do it.
You just can't hit on any of the things, because like Ron DeSantis popularized, like not necessarily popularized, but he made further right so many of these wokeness talking points. Trump does it better.
And he also knows that he doesn't give a fuck about it, which is so good.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
So good.
Maybe the ideal position here is like somehow Trump wins. He goes to prison, runs the campaign from prison.
Yeah.
Guys, I have to win so I can pardon myself from this partisan hackery, this FBI witch hunt.
Yeah.
And then DeSantis is in the corner like, well, I would have gotten rid of the FBI for you.
You know what discourse I can't wait for?
What?
We're going to get a little bit closer to the trial. Maybe I don't think the trial will happen before the presidential election. So let's say it does.
Oh, that'd be so good.
We're going to get so many people like Elon Musk, maybe even some liberals say things like, if Trump goes to jail, we're handing him the presidency.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. I've already seen that take.
Point.
It's a good take. It's a great take.
I love it so much. We should just let him do whatever he wants. That's the move.
Exactly. Let him break laws, go to prison, but actually just don't let him go. It's like, that'd be so funny if he ran.
I really just don't see a way Trump gets out of this, but I also don't see a way that DeSantis or anybody else for that matter beats him in the primary.
Like, what are they just banking on him going to prison?
I guess, but even like that doesn't stop him, right?
No, it really doesn't. I don't think it slows him down. I don't think Trump going to prison, you're going to hand him the presidency with that. But I don't think it really slows him down like in a meaningful way.
Right.
It's like, what are they doing? Even our boy Vivek, right? He comes through with some pretty, I don't know, unique wokeness talking points, but he still doesn't do it as good as Trump.
That's what I'm saying.
He's still good. He's still a poster.
Yeah.
But he's not as good of a poster as Trump. He's not pulling up to New Jersey diners and saying, everybody eats on me. And then walking out without paying for the bill.
That's a real news story that happened. That is incredible. He's so perfect.
I want to be able to do that one day.
He's just like me.
I want to be able to walk into a Head in the Office fan meetup at Denny's and be like, guys, you know
everyone
what?
Eats.
You've supported us. You've supported us so much throughout this time. It's your dollars in the Patreon that allowed us to be here to get to this point. I'm going to give back. Everybody eats on us. And then I leave.
Why did he do that?
So cool.
Why did he do that? It's so good. And like, if Ron DeSantis did that, everyone would be giving him shit.
Absolutely, yeah.
But if Trump does it, I think it's hilarious.
If Ron DeSantis did any of the things Trump did, he'd be getting shit on it. If Ron DeSantis went on to a RNC dinner and said, yeah, nobody cared about trans issues like 5 years ago, he'd be eviscerated by the media. What do you mean nobody cared? I cared.
Yeah, but Trump just does it, and DeSantis can't. DeSantis can't do it.
I mean, shit, while we're speaking of Florida, we might as well get to the Florida anti-LGBTQ legislation.
Yeah. We got a couple of anti-LGBTQ things to talk about today. The biggest one, though, is the Florida law.
Yeah.
We missed this a couple of weeks ago. I think it passed like late May, mid-May, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we missed it. I feel like a lot of people just didn't really talk about it, if I'm being honest.
Pride Month pregame.
Yeah. Like, I feel like people really didn't talk about it. I don't know why.
I feel like people aren't talking a lot about the legislation that's been going on. And it's mostly just been about trans people existing, which is like a very real and noticeable shift in the discourse. Because a lot of it's about like, oh, we need to do this legislation. And really, over the course of a couple weeks, I feel like it went from legislation to, well, we need to protect the kids. And protecting the kids means that trans people can't exist.
Yeah, basically. So back in May, Ron DeSantis signed SB 254 into law. This bill does a couple of pretty huge things. First, it bans gender-affirming care in the state of Florida for those under 18, which is pretty standard now for Republicans, but still evil. I mean, just fundamentally evil. It also bans telehealth, saying that physicians must be in the room with adults when prescribing treatments or medication for gender-affirming care, again, for adults. This means that nurses and assistants can't help you, which is going to cause bottleneck issues, which I think it already is causing bottleneck issues.
But it's just like, why?
Yeah.
What could you do being in the room for the person that you couldn't do online?
Right.
Do you need to go through no, you don't need to do a physical exam. Like, or if you did, that was already done. The telehealth is just being done for prescriptions. Like, what is the functional purpose other than making things hard?
Yeah. Or
there's none.
Even beyond that, some clinics that provide gender affirming care or prescriptions or treatments or whatever it may be might not have a doctor there that day. What if it's only nurses?
Yeah.
What if it's only assistants that are in at the moment? What do? You just can't do anything, right?
You're just fucked, I guess.
So that's why a lot of people have said this functionally bans or just restricts heavily gender affirming care, even for adults. People, they say, can do whatever they want, just leave the kids alone, right?
Yeah.
That's been the narrative.
Yeah.
Guess that doesn't apply here. It also prevents state funds from being used for gender affirming care in any way, just completely prohibits that.
Okay.
Which is like, it's a form of healthcare, but sick. And finally, and this is the big one, it allows Florida courts to take emergency temporary jurisdiction of children in some cases. So this is from the Pensacola News Journal. I have a quote. It says, quote, "The bill would grant Florida courts temporary emergency jurisdiction if a child present in the state has been abandoned, it's been deemed necessary if the child, a sibling, or a parent is subjected to or threatened with mistreatment or abuse, or if the child is subjected to or threatened with sex reassignment, prescriptions and procedures." And of course, sex reassignment, prescriptions and procedures means puberty blockers, hormones, gender affirming care.
Yeah.
So
if your kid takes puberty blockers, if your kid does HRT, Florida can kidnap them.
Yeah.
The state can kidnap your kid.
That's exactly what it means. It is defining the use of gender affirming care for minors as abuse or mistreatment or threat. And it's saying that the state can take jurisdiction over that child if they're exposed to that. It's a kidnap bill.
Well, according to the AP, and this is real, by the way, the AP fact-checked somebody saying it was a kidnapping bill and said, well, actually, guys, kidnapping is illegal.
I've seen so many of those.
Kidnapping is a crime.
Guys,
and the state's doing it, and the state said it's legal now.
Yeah, I've loved that. Like, it doesn't allow the state to kidnap children. It just allows them to take emergency jurisdiction over children. Like, what's the intent here, though? Like what are they trying to accomplish?
Functionally kidnapping, you're taking them away against their will.
Right. And like, this is one of the most sweeping bills we've seen in terms of gender affirming care. It obviously bans it, as we said, but it takes it a step further and threatens to kidnap children that are using or that are allowed to use gender affirming care. And supporters, of course, said, as we just mentioned, that it doesn't authorize kidnapping of children. But I don't know how you really interpret that any other way. Will there be children taken away for using gender affirming care in the state? I don't know. Yeah. Maybe. But it seems to me that there's a definite chilling effect to scare you into submission, to keep your kid away from using gender affirming care, even if it's really beneficial to their health.
And it's also just the language of the bill is not threatened with gender affirming care.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean? When does that happen?
Well, no, I think they what they're saying is that it's always a threat if it's gender affirming care for minors, right?
Of course, because it's always the parents forcing this onto them. They've always been groomed into it. They can't just want it for themselves. They can't want these reversible treatments for themselves to aid their mostly social transition.
Yeah.
Fucking dumb.
Yeah, and this totally just feeds directly into the right-wing hate campaign. And you'll notice the inconsistency here, right? Ron DeSantis has been the parental rights guy. Like, that has been, well, at least in the beginning of his governorship, the first term of his governorship.
Last year, he was
the parental rights and education guy, the parental rights everywhere guy. And this seems pretty in opposition to parental rights, right? It's saying that if you're a parent, you can't even make a decision about the kind of care that your child is able to access, even if you have the money to pay for it, even if your child says it's okay and you want to do it as well. You can't have your kid go through gender affirming care. And it just kind of highlights how inconsistent their actual ideology is. It has nothing to do with helping children, has nothing to do with the protection of children or even the protection of parental rights as they understand it. It's totally just aiding in the elimination of LGBTQ people. That's always what it's been about.
Every single parental rights bill that they've passed is really just taking away rights from parents. You know what I mean? Rights from parents to help their kids understand what these things are. Rights of like the kids themselves to, I don't know, learn about who they are. Whether they're banning books about like, I don't know, how to get therapy and how to feel better after you've been sexually assaulted, or just banning books that have gay people. It's all just a restriction on rights. There's no expansion to anything here.
Yeah, no, it's really bad. Florida has quickly become the worst state to live. Certainly as a trans person, but generally speaking, as a member of the LGBTQ, people have already said this, but if you're in Florida, get out.
Like, and it's fucking expensive. I think we covered it a couple weeks ago. It's like one of the most expensive states to live in.
It has the worst proportion for income to cost of living or something like that?
The worst place income to cost of living or like ratio. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I love to talk about the liberal cities, but I digress.
It's a bad place to live economically, and if you're a minority.
Yeah.
Get out if you can. I know it's expensive to move, certainly, but get out if you can. As a quick addendum before we move on to the next piece of news, the Human Rights Campaign just declared a state of emergency for LGBTQ plus people in the United States. This is the first state of emergency the Human Rights Campaign, which is a nonprofit organization, has ever issued about anything in the United States. The Human Rights Campaign found that more than 200... the HRC, Human Rights Campaign, has found that more than 525 anti-LGBTQ bills have been introduced across 41 different states, 220 of them explicitly targeting trans people. That's a lot of legislation. And lots of it has passed as well. I think they said like 70-some pieces of legislation have been implemented and are now functioning as laws. We're in an unprecedented time of anti-LGBTQ laws.
Yeah.
Certainly, as we'll talk about a little bit more this episode, but it's been book bans, as you mentioned, or just restrictions on curriculum, who you can learn about, sports bans, bathroom bills that we've seen, restrictions on gender-affirming care, certainly, drag bans, pride flag bans, as we'll talk about.
Oh, yeah.
And on top of all that, there's the constant narrative being spun that kids being exposed to trans people is tantamount to pedophilia, and the implied notion that pedophilia should be met with violence, and therefore violence against LGBTQ people is justified in any way possible.
Ultimately, just the regression in, I guess, the public discourse, or maybe it's not even the public discourse. Maybe I'm just too online, but it's hard to think that I'm too online when what I hear from everyone online is manifesting in 520-something proposed anti-LGBTQ bills, 220 of them being explicitly anti-trans. You know what I mean? I've seen so many people, again, conservatives on Twitter, just straight up regress to, I don't know, 2013 era gay discourse, where they're talking about, like, you can be gay, that's fine, but don't shove it in my face. I don't want to see it. Keep it in the bedroom.
Right.
What? Come on.
And that applies to literally nothing else in their life.
Exactly.
Right?
I thought we were so far past this. Like two gay guys, like, I don't know, sharing a kiss in public or holding hand, like a peck in public is going to groom your kids. Yeah, a heterosexual couple, I don't know, making out on the lawn or something, doing whatever, enjoying the rights that they've always had is just completely fine.
Or just a pride flag being up in your local Starbucks. Like, that's much of an issue for you. What does it do? And we've even seen companies capitulate to the right recently with taking down pride flags.
Target.
or getting rid of pride merchandise or putting it in the back so less people see it. Like, what does it matter to you?
It's a fucking flag.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Or sometimes it's not even a flag. It's just colors. So like,
it's a fucking rainbow.
Or with the Matt Walsh tweet thread that we talked about in the intro, it's like literature that you don't have to read. Like they're shadow boxing with like books. What are we doing?
No, you're shadow boxing with books in the library that probably haven't been touched in 3 years, or probably haven't even been touched since they were purchased.
Yeah.
It's like they've elevated the issue so much. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's really bad.
Crazy. And it's like the thing about the flags, like who gives a shit other than the group that is being represented who hasn't historically been represented before? You shouldn't care.
Yeah.
You shouldn't see that and be like, oh wow, we'll get to it more and we talk about the flag.
Well, and that's the next story we have to talk about. But if you live in Florida, get out. It's a bad place to be. Protect yourself. I don't know. Find some way to not have to deal with this because it's really, really bad. But as Gage just kind of alluded to, we have a story about the pride flag. It's out of Hamtramck, Michigan, which is right in our backyard.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit south from where we are, right outside of Detroit.
No, I haven't even heard of that place before.
You never heard of Hamtramck? It's a pretty.
I don't think so.
It's a pretty dense little city on the outside of Detroit.
Okay.
It's Yeah. I mean, it's a thing.
Like by like the suburb, like by around like Auburn Hills, like that area, like the surrounding area.
It's a little bit further south, I think. It's like
Okay, cool.
it's like right next to Detroit. It's like a tiny little place, but it's a pretty densely packed place. Like a
Word.
pretty populated area. But they've done a pretty bad thing. So again, this was brought up by a listener in our Discord. I can't remember exactly who right now. My deepest and sincerest apologies.
But you know who you are.
But this is just one reason you should get involved in the Hiddo community, because sometimes you'll send us stories and sometimes we'll cover it on the news, because this hit pretty big national headlines recently. At least one of the days throughout the week, and I thought we should cover it.
It's a pretty bad thing.
Yeah. So the Hamtramck, Michigan City Council unanimously voted to ban the display of pride flags on all public property. More specifically, the ban prohibits the display of, quote, religious, ethnic, racial, political, or sexual orientation group flags. So it's trying to frame itself as though this is just a ban on all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
But the important note here is that it specifically targets pride flags.
It's only being used or enforced against pride flags. Like that's it. They want to put in these broad language so that they can't, so that this couldn't be taken to court and just immediately thrown out because of discrimination laws.
Yeah.
They're gonna
They try to make it a little bit more subtle.
Exactly.
Yeah. One council member said, quote, "You guys are welcome, but why do you have to have a flag shown on government property to be represented? You're already represented. We already know who you are."
We already know who you are is crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like that's wild.
Also, they said, "We want to respect the religious rights of our citizens," which I think kind of gives the game away here about what this exactly is about.
Yeah.
And here's the deal, right? The new rule, to my knowledge, generally applies to like all flags of different types, right? The list that I read off to you. But there weren't flags of religious, ethnic, racial, or political nature being flown. Pride flags were just put up because it's June.
Because it's Pride Month.
And then this ordinance or whatever it is was passed, and they all had to be taken down during June.
And I can imagine that they're just in select areas.
Right, like
areas where businesses are like, yeah, let's celebrate Pride.
Yeah, and on top of that, like this comes halfway through Pride Month, and the context right now is that there's an ongoing hate campaign against LGBTQ people, specifically trans people, and then you're moving to take it all down. Like, right, it would be one thing if they had never put up a Pride flag to begin with, and they never passed this ordinance or anything like that, but they put it up and then made the conscious choice unanimously to pass an ordinance that got rid of the pride flag that would prohibit it from ever being displayed ever again during Pride Month, given everything that's going on. You can't tell me it's just a coincidence that they're just doing this to be morally neutral on this issue.
Well,
and by the way, moral neutrality on this issue is unacceptable. You can't capitulate to the right whatsoever here.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And they gave the entire game away when they said, we're doing this to protect people's religious freedom.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? The only thing that can mean is that some people in our community, some religious people in our community, don't think that they have to accept gay people because they can. Some people in our community are cowards who hide behind the thin veneer of religion in order to discriminate against a group of people who have done no harm to them.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna continue to discriminate against that group of people that has done no harm to this broader community.
Yeah, and Hamtramck, Michigan is a pretty religious place. It has a lot of like conservative-leaning religious Muslim people, actually. Yeah. And sometimes they can be worse than the conservative-leaning Christians. Yeah. For some reason, they can go pretty hard on that anti-LGBTQ stuff, like far to the right.
It's not just far-right religious people.
Yeah.
Insane. Yeah. Fucking crazy.
And when you say religious freedom, your freedom to do what? Not have to see gay people?
Yeah.
Like, is that what your freedom is here?
Your freedoms, your individual freedoms that are granted to you through the Constitution only extend so far as they don't impede on other people's freedoms.
Yeah.
If a business wants to fucking decorate with the pride flag, go for it.
Well, a business can continue to. It's just public property. No government buildings get to have the pride flag on it. Well, actually, not that they don't get to. They all have to take it down.
They have to. They aren't allowed to.
Yeah.
They're just, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
And this is also only happening as a result of the discourse that happened last week about Joe Biden putting a pride flag on the White House.
Yep.
Like, that's it. It's all this flag code bullshit. Who cares? It doesn't fucking matter.
Well, and it's like we can make the case for having the pride flag up, right?
Yeah.
Like, when a group is actively being targeted and singled out, they deserve favoritism because they're the ones under attack, right? They deserve protection and visibility through the use of political power. It's the reason why Black Lives Matter is the slogan of BLM and not All Lives Matter, because there's a specific group that's being targeted and we need to defend those people. why would we not want to put pride flags up?
Yeah,
they're the ones under attack right now, and visibility is a key component in protecting people and helping them and supporting them through current attacks.
People who work in government are quite literally public servants, right? Public land is an extension of that. It's for the public. And if you have members of your community who are historically discriminated against and attacks against them are ramping up,
and current.
Very current. It is incredibly important to show your support for the members of that community. So you can show your support by doing something as innocuous, as nothing, as just putting up a flag.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I say it doesn't matter. Like, you're just putting up a flag.
Yeah, and like they want to say that like it was showing favoritism to put a pride flag up, but it's like that's kind of the point.
Yeah, we're trying to highlight this group.
You need a little bit of favoritism right now, right? Like solidarity is something that spawns off of systems of oppression. That's why white people, you don't need solidarity amongst the white community, if you could even call it that.
Yeah,
because
white lives matter.
There's no like in the past, far in the past, like thousands of years ago, Christians were discriminated against pretty heavily, right? And if that was still happening today, then there would be reason for you to say, I support the Christian community. But Christians are dominant within the United States right now. There's no reason to do it, right? You don't have to. It just doesn't make any sense.
And it's like, I just want to clear, like, I say, like, who cares? Because it's such a non-issue.
Yeah.
Putting up a flag should be a non-issue. That does not matter. But they're making it such a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Just because they're hateful.
Yeah. And of course it plays into the broader campaign, the broader context of what's happening now. And it just shows you that you don't prioritize what the LGBTQ need in your community, right? It's symbolic. That's what it's supposed to be. One other reason they gave for the ban, though, was that they didn't want racist groups to ask for racist flags to be flown. You can say no.
Yeah.
Slippery slope is actually a fallacy. It's fallacious argumentation. You can say, this is where we stop.
Yeah, you can set the line. You don't have to be like, well, we're displaying a pride flag, so we got to put up a Confederate flag.
Yeah.
You don't, actually. Yeah. You can just say no.
And like I've seen, especially this Pride Month, a lot of comparisons between support for religions or just like religious iconography and support for the LGBTQ. Like, I've seen those compared a lot, especially online, which, of course, maybe I shouldn't be as online. But I've seen a lot of that this Pride Month. And the point I want to make is a government flying the pride flag isn't the same as a government putting a Christian cross up. Mostly because of, like, the First Amendment says no law establishing a religion in the country.
I was about to say mostly because of, I don't know, separation of church and state.
Yeah, but, like, symbolically it's different because, again, one group is under attack and one isn't. There's no bans on Christian worship. There's no restrictions on kids reading a Christian Bible. There's no restrictions on kids learning about the history of Christianity as a religion. When a group is being attacked, as I said, visibility is an important means of support. And because Christians are the dominant group within this country, there's no need to put up, like, a cross in front of a government building because they're not the ones under attack right now.
I don't even think there are bans on like crosses in government buildings.
I think there's been Supreme Court cases about it before.
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised, but still, that people still put up Christmas trees in these
I was just about to say that.
Like, that's what it is. I saw, again, with the discourse last week about Joe Biden putting up the pride flag on the White House, so many people started talking about, like, well, why don't they show support for Christians? They do all the time.
They put a fucking Christmas tree in every room of the goddamn White House.
It's like a huge ceremony whenever the first lady decorates the Christmas tree. It's a big thing.
They say this as though, like, city councils say New York City Council doesn't put up 80-foot Christmas trees on every fucking block during December. Like, what are we talking about?
It's as if we don't string Christmas lights on, like, every city street. Like, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
You're everywhere.
Like, come on, what are we talking about?
Then we put up a flag 1 month.
The fundamental take is that as leftists, we side with oppressed groups every single time. Yeah, I mean, it's not uncritical support. The groups can do something wrong. But the point is that they're under attack, and there's oppression that's happening right now that has happened historically, and we side with them because oppression's bad. Hot take.
Real.
Yeah.
So incredibly for that. And speaking of oppression being bad, a federal judge recently agreed, right? So outside of Utah, we have a group that organizes public drag events, Southern Utah Drag Stars. They just successfully sued the city of St. George for discrimination. So that's pretty gas, actually. So basically what happened was Southern Utah Drag Stars asked the city council for a permit to have an all-ages drag event in public. The city told them they could advertise the event before they got the permit, They denied the permit on the grounds of a never before enforced ordinance that said you're not allowed to advertise an event before you get a permit.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
So they just lied?
They just lied.
Oh.
Never enforced that rule before. Never, ever. Only to stop the drag show.
Gotta believe that they were purposely told, hey, yeah, you can start advertising so they could get them on it.
100%.
Gotta believe that.
100%. Absolutely. But U.S. District Judge David Nuffer ruled that that was a pretext for discrimination and dropped some bars in his ruling. And I just wanted to highlight these and read this. He said, quote, public spaces are public spaces. Public spaces are not private spaces. Public spaces are not majority spaces. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution ensures that all citizens, popular or not, majority or minority, conventional or unconventional, have access to public spaces for public expression. And then he ruled that the city must grant the drag show its permit, and they must give the drag show scheduling priority over all other events, and they cannot restrict its advertising in any way.
It's so funny. We talk so often about how when conservative justices or conservative judges issue a ruling, it's always really fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And we can dismantle it on a podcast after thinking about it for 10 minutes. But then when judges offer a ruling that's like in favor of liberal or left causes, they're always so elementary because otherwise conservatives won't understand.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's like public spaces.
Public spaces are public spaces, not
literally
private
for
spaces.
everyone to do their things like within reason, of course.
These are like foundational concepts for the nation.
Yeah, and
unlike
that's
religion.
That's the meat of this story, but I feel like it's kind of huge.
Yeah.
Like for a federal judge to dish out a ruling like this, affirming like a drag group's right to host an all ages drag show on public property, given that they fulfill every necessary requirement to get a permit. Does that not, I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
I'm not a law school guy. I'm not any of that. But does that not provide precedent within the federal court to then, I don't know, attack other drag
Invalidate
bands?
all the drag bands, right?
Yeah. Wouldn't that now allow you to challenge other drag bands in other states on the grounds of like public expression? Like, could you go to Florida and say, according to David Nuffer's ruling in U.S. District Court, whatever, the federal court, public spaces are public spaces.
Yeah.
You can't ban kids from seeing drag.
You would think,
Isn't
right?
that the precedent that this sets? Like, it's in federal court.
At the very least, I would think it's not insignificant. And this, to me, makes me think that at some point, probably not this year, because the Supreme Court's already been through a ton of cases, that we might get a Supreme Court case about this issue specifically, which
probably next year.
Which could be really bad, depending on what goes on.
Or there may be...
I mean, could you imagine the Supreme Court saying like, oh yeah, the government can ban what happens in public spaces? Like that would be a huge increase in power of local and state governments. That'd be crazy.
I don't even think they'd be able to go that far. I think they would have to tackle this issue on the basis of like what obscenity laws. Because obscenity laws have already been defined by the Supreme Court as I'll know it when I see it.
Right.
So I feel like that's the only way they can actually like enshrine a drag ban.
Yeah.
But based on this, doesn't this kind of invalidate others? Like, what is it, Mississippi banning male and female impersonators in public?
Right.
That's your expression in a public place, in a public space.
Oh, I think it was wasn't the Tennessee one challenged in their state Supreme Court and it was blocked?
Maybe.
I think we brought that up on an episode.
We definitely brought it up on an episode for sure. But like, that's a banger.
Maybe. Yeah,
that's a banger decision coming out of the federal courts. There's been a couple recently.
I was about to say the federal courts are not disappointing me like normal.
Yeah, maybe I'm pro judiciary now. Until Morphy Harper.
Judicial Brand's quickly becoming my favorite. I must say. One other good thing that we have to talk about in terms of LGBTQ laws, we got a good law coming out of California that I've been seeing tons of misinformation about. There was so many people fear-mongering about, all on the right, of course, but they were all saying like how awful this was. They were decrying it, calling it 1984, Soviet Russia, all kinds of names. Basically, this one nicely juxtaposes the Florida kidnap bill, by the way. There's been a lot of fear-mongering about this because California passed a bill that punishes, they were saying that California was passing a bill that punishes parents that don't force LGBTQ ideology onto their children, right? Like that's been the line of attack. And from what they said, I had pictured that they were pressing like criminal charges against parents that don't like affirm their child's gender if the child identifies as another gender.
That's what they made it sound like.
Right. I thought like there was criminal charge, like these people were going to jail.
Yeah, you're going to go to prison if you don't use the correct pronouns for your kid.
Yeah, but it's really simple. The bill in reference is Assembly Bill 957. Hasn't passed yet. It's heading to the California Senate right now. Literally, all it does is make it so custody court favors parents who are more accepting of LGBTQ identities. Like, they have to take that into account. That's it. That's the whole bill.
They're taking your kids away.
Yeah.
They're giving your kids to your woke fucking wife who wants to leave you now.
Yeah, because I was really thinking like, oh, criminal charges, like that would be going a bit far. Right?
Yeah,
like, that's kind of
like
extreme.
that's kind of nuts.
Like I'd be open to the argument that it's child abuse to not affirm your child's gender, but like I don't know how we would legislate that. Like, it has to do with like what you're saying.
It just seems like a jump. Like I could listen. Like that's a discussion to have
for sure. But then I realized it was just custody, and like totally in favor of this, obviously.
Yeah, and it's like, doesn't it make sense for a kid to go with a parent that makes them feel safe?
Yeah, like this is unambiguously good because trans youth are especially at higher risk for depression, suicidal ideation, anxiety, that kind of thing. And having accepting parents that are helpful and they are listening or they're attentive to your needs is good for the kid.
And it's also not you have to go to the parent that respects your pronouns.
Right.
We'll take it into consideration.
Yeah, right.
Which it's like, okay, like
and that's it.
It's so innocuous.
Yeah.
It's so just blatantly good. Conservatives are crazy, bro.
It's so blatantly good, and it will impact such a small minority of custody decisions that in
just a good way.
It has nothing. It's not going to really do much. You know what I mean? Like it's not some monumental seismic shift in what California is going to be doing or how kids are treated. It's just a small hole that they're plugging that will help a couple of people, and that's good.
It's like, oh no, should you find yourself in it? Maybe the conservatives are just panicking.
Yeah,
because they live in California and their wife's about to leave them and take the kids because they don't respect their kids. Like that has to be the people that are out here just like crying about this. Well, because what normal person is gonna cry about this?
I'm gonna lose my kid because I actively hate them. God damn it, dog. Conservative parents are the most entitled people in the world.
Absolutely. Like, my parental rights bills. It's all ridiculous.
And, I say this juxtaposes Florida nicely because they're literally, and this isn't even like straw manning. They're literally out here trying to kidnap children that want to get gender affirming care or that do get gender affirming care. And then California's doing a bill that doesn't do anything about the state taking custody of children.
Yeah.
It just says that we're going to favor the parent that is better to the child. Like, what are we talking about?
Whatever parent makes the child feel more safe, is more accepting of the child and who they want to be, that's the parent that should get custody, provided they fulfill these other factors.
Right. Like, it seems like unambiguously good, at least in my mind. I don't know. Conservatives are losing the plot a little bit.
That's crazy. And I mean, shit, if we're about to take this plot and if we're about to go way off the deep end,
we're about to lose it.
We're really about to lose it. We'll never be able to find it. Because it's time for some Beyond Parody, folks.
And we got some Beyond Parody sections for you all today. First one that I want to talk about is feeding children. Another unambiguously good thing.
Yeah.
But I got a banger headline here.
Okay.
It says, quote.
Let me hear it. Lay it on me.
It says, quote, Republicans declare banning universal free school meals a 2024 priority.
Priority is crazy. Guys, you know what? Maybe the CRT thing didn't work. Abortion clearly didn't work in the midterms. Maybe we're not sure where this trans rhetoric is going to go.
Let's take food away.
I think what's going to unite the American public is taking food out of the mouths of children.
So if you're sitting here thinking like, oh, that's a straw man, that's being dramatic. I have a quote from the article. It says, quote, The Republican Study Committee on Wednesday released its Desire 2024 budget, in which the party boldly declares its priority to eliminate the Community Eligibility Provision, or SEEP, from the school lunch program because, quote, SEEP allows certain schools to provide free school lunch regardless of the individual eligibility of each student.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Someone doesn't have to pay, like, I don't know, $5 for their school lunch every day. Oh.
So right now, only a couple of states actually provide universal free school lunch for their students. It's California, Colorado, Maine, Minnesota, New Mexico, and Vermont. Those are the only schools that do it right now, or the only states that do it for their schools. And right now, there's also 21 states considering similar proposals that haven't been enacted yet. But according to this report, the GOP wants to completely eliminate the possibility.
Like, eliminating the possibility is crazy.
Yeah,
like they always want to talk about big government overreach.
They want to. This is not a states' rights issue. Okay, children should not be allowed to eat.
Exactly. You know, sometimes the federal government needs to step in. It's what we have it for.
Yeah.
And when it comes to people, I don't know, mooching off of the system and feeding their kids for for free, then I think we really need to step in and rein in this budget.
I genuinely can't think of a more unpopular position to take. Like feeding children is an unambiguously good thing to do. And I can't think of a way to be more unpopular than to say, I want to make it impossible for state governments to feed children, to give them universal free school lunches.
How fucking insane.
Yeah.
I don't understand what the U.S. has, like, just as a country, maybe just like the conservatives have against feeding kids. Because like it even makes me think of like Fred Hampton too.
Right.
Like he did his free lunch program in Chicago and they killed him for it.
Yeah.
Like, what do they have against feeding children? And to say it's a priority to not feed children, crazy.
I mean, I think it's because it's so goddamn popular to feed kids. Nobody objects to free school lunches.
Yeah.
If there's ever a good thing to spend state money on, it's feeding children, right? Because the classic argument against universal food in general would be that, oh, well, you should have to work for money to pay for food. That's not an option for children.
They're kids.
Children shouldn't be punished if their parents aren't working or can't afford certain things. So feeding the kids only makes sense. It's a very popular thing to run on. It's a thing that Democrats, of course, are more in favor of than Republicans. So it seems the only way they can get around this policy issue without being just blatantly unpopular is to get rid of it entirely. And that's what they want to do.
And it's like, it's unironically, the only people who are against free lunch aren't even like, outside of just fucking conservatives, I guess, aren't even against free lunch. It's poor people who have too much pride to allow their kid to take free lunch. Those are the only people who aren't going to do it. Other than that, I guess it's just conservatives who think that's a winning position. How out of touch do you have to be?
Yeah.
Conservatives campaign on being like, oh yeah, I know what you want.
Yeah.
I know what you as the American person wants. These Democrats are getting way too far away from that with all their CRT and wokeness and all their feeding kids and keeping them with full bellies.
Feeding kids is woke. The schools have gone woke. They're feeding children. What is this, fucking communism?
Holy shit.
But that's not it for this report. That was just the headline and the thing that got everyone's eye.
Is it even federal money that these states are using?
Sometimes, probably.
Sometimes, sure, maybe, but it's like, are
most school
these
funding,
state programs?
Most school funding comes from state taxes, state funds. Yeah. The federal money does go towards it, but it's mostly a state endeavor to do. And it's like, I mean, they talk about states' rights. It's a state like a state like, I don't know, Oklahoma, Utah, a red state. They're not going to opt into doing this thing, right? But like, if states want to do it, if they vote to do it, if their legislators decide like, yeah, we have the money to do this, or in Michigan or California, if you're running a massive surplus, why not feed the kids, right?
Yeah.
Like, why not?
That should be so unambiguously good.
Like,
even if you can't, even if like you can't like afford it, right? Even if you have to make other budgetary considerations, shouldn't feeding the kids be like one of the last things that gets cut from the budget?
That's the first thing I'm doing if I'm a legislator designing a budget. I'm feeding the kids, right?
Like if you realistically have to rein in a budget, like you're not a conservative crying about it. If there are serious issues and you need to rein in the budget, who thinks, guys, I think these kids are eating too much. 3 square meals a day, sometimes 1 square meal a day. Like, that's a bit too much, guys.
You remember the gas stove story?
Yeah.
Where we literally said it's all about protecting the kids until they get asthma and like can't breathe.
Yeah.
It's all protecting the kids until they don't want to be hungry anymore, until they want to eat. Right? Like the right constantly talks about we got to protect the kids from woke indoctrination, from
we
CRT.
have to protect these kids from, I don't know, seeing 2 gay guys kiss.
Yeah.
But we don't want to protect these kids from starvation.
Their desire to protect kids just completely falls off. It ends when it comes to feeding children for free.
Like, it's a virtue signal. It's crazy. They don't mean anything that they say.
What a broken country.
Holy shit.
In the same plan, though, same budget plan, where they don't want to feed kids anymore, they also want to raise the Social Security retirement age to 69. This is a Republican committee, by the way, that like 70% of Republican Congress people are in. So just keep that in mind. They want to raise the Social Security retirement age to 69, a cut. They want to make the Trump tax cuts for the 1% permanent so they don't have to renew anymore. And they want to impose work requirements for those 55 to 64 on all federal assistance programs. So and just straight up cuts.
These are new priorities.
Yes.
These are Republican platform priorities. And this is the party of the people.
The Republican Study Committee.
You can't tell me that you're like a blue collar conservative, right? You maybe work on the line at a factory and you're getting ready to retire. Maybe you're like 16. You're like, yeah, these are good for me.
Yeah.
raising the retirement age is actually great for me.
Yeah.
You know what? Those 1%, they deserve those tax cuts.
I should work harder.
They may have more money than God. They may have more money than they can possibly fucking spend on anything reasonable. They should have more.
They may be able to build skyscrapers out of $100 bills with all of the money that they have. But you know what? I should work until I'm 69.
I should. That's what I deserve. I deserve to work until I'm 69. And if God forbid I can't work and God forbid I need to go on federal assistance, I should work to get it.
Say what you will. Say what you will about being a bootlicker, but it's warm under there, okay? It feels nice. I'm comfy. I'm
warm in the crevices of the sole of the boot, really. It keeps me safe. It keeps me protected. It keeps me warm. I don't fucking understand.
And you know what? I do. You know, I got 3 kids that are in school right now. I do want $50 every single week going towards feeding them at lunch.
Not even 50. When we were in high school, that shit was like $5 a lunch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You got 3 kids. That's like, oh my God. That's like fucking $100 a week.
Well, that was literally the problem for my family.
That's
like we could afford to feed me, thankfully. Like I never went hungry, of course. But me and my younger sister were in school at the same time, both going to schools where we had to pay for lunches. That shit piles up so fast.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're like me buying cookies at each lunch. But beyond that, like it's a lot.
Even if you're like me and you're a little irresponsible sometimes and you just forget your money. Sometimes I just forgot like the $5 for lunch and had to go into lunch debt.
Yeah.
And lunch debt, it was, okay, we'll give you, this one's on us, but you don't get another one.
Yeah.
You need to come tomorrow with money or you're not eating.
It's just another example of the Republican Party in this country having the most insanely unpopular, unthinkably, unimaginably unpopular positions, and then wondering why young people and most people hate them so much. It's got to be indoctrination though, right?
Even if you're a working class libertarian and you're the actual groomer that the right likes to talk about, right? You see the 1% tax cuts, and do you really think those are coming to you?
Right. It'll trickle down one day.
Do you really think that eventually they're going to keep cutting taxes until they can cut them for you? Come on, let's be realistic. Let's be so fucking for real right now.
Yeah. When the Republicans talk about balancing the budget, it's taking food away from kids. It's taking retirement benefits away from you until you're about to die.
It's billionaire tax cuts.
It's billionaire. Well, that makes the budget worse. That unbalances the budget. But they got to find somewhere to cut. It's for you. That's what they're cutting.
Holy shit. I like how it's just the 1% Trump tax cuts. It's not restore the Trump tax cuts that helped the middle class a little bit.
Right.
It's just the ones that help the rich people.
Right.
He's so for real
and
right
like,
now.
I'd be open to tax cuts for the middle class, right? Especially small business owners in the middle class. That'd be really great.
That's what I'm saying. Especially, middle class small business podcasters.
But no, it's only the top 1% ones that they want to restore, not the ones that have already sunset by now.
Fuck, dude.
So ridiculous, man.
Holy shit. That's a banger.
That's a beyond parody right there.
The GOP priorities, they're pretty crazy. And I think there was a significant priority that we left out of here, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
I want to highlight another story, beyond parody, of course. So whimsical that we're going to have to cover from Texas.
Okay.
But before we cover it, I think we have to agree on 3 premises, right?
Okay, I'm open to premises.
So I'm going to run through them, right? So first, I think we all can agree that H2O, water, agua, if you will, is good for you, dare I say necessary.
I don't know if I can agree with you on that one.
Okay, I
have to contest that point.
Okay, understandable. It's a contentious position to take.
I'm taking on the role of conservative. I don't know if I can agree with that.
Okay, well, the second premise that I'm going to present to you all of you, is that when it's hot outside, you may need more water.
Okay, maybe.
Okay, we can maybe see the connection here?
I see, yeah.
All right. And
if
then,
I accept the first premise, sure.
And then finally, I think it would follow that when you're doing hard physical labor, you would also need more water to keep, your body fueled, your body able to do these things, to not be dehydrated, correct?
Right, okay.
Okay. So
hard work like podcasting. That's why I'm always drinking water.
That's what I'm saying. So now you may be able to guess where I'm going with this, but if you can't, I wouldn't blame you for a second, because Texas, by the hands of Greg Abbott, just made a law that made it so that rules requiring construction workers get a mandatory 10-minute water break every 4 hours are now gone.
Oh my God.
Meaning it's no longer required that construction workers get water breaks.
What are we doing? They'll just find a better company to work for.
And all I've got to say is finally Greg Abbott does some good things for deregulation. Finally, he makes good on his promises. These pesky, hard physical laborers are soaking up hours of productivity every day by taking their water breaks.
Quote unquote.
And if you ask me, they're basically stealing millions every year from the hardworking CEOs of these companies. But that's just me. Well, it's really not just me. Because as per Texas Tribune, supporters of Texas House Bill 2127 say, quote, it will eliminate a patchwork of local ordinances across the state that bog down businesses.
Bog down.
So good. So good. Abbott himself said this law will, quote, provide new hope to Texas businesses struggling under burdensome local regulations.
These damn water breaks, they are losing billions of dollars.
Water breaks, they're taking away from all these hardworking business owners. And I got more from Texas Tribune that I want to read to you. So read this block. Water breaks are better solved by OSHA controls, argued Jeffrey Tahuahua, I don't fucking know, president of Associated Builders and Contractors of Texas. Tahuahua believes local rules impose a rigid scheme that, unlike OSHA guidelines, does not allow the flexibility needed to tailor breaks to individual job site conditions. Guys, you don't understand. Austin's ordinance requiring that you get a 10-minute water break every 4 hours, that's too restrictive.
Yeah, far too restrictive.
That's way too restrictive. I really can't pencil in this time for you within 4 hours.
Yeah,
to get a water break.
Doing a pretty dangerous job like construction. Getting a water, you know what? Fuck it. We don't need hard hats anymore. Companies are wasting billions of dollars on hard hats.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. All I'm saying, like, if they don't think they need it, they don't need it.
Exactly.
Because the overall bill for this Texas bill, what is it? 2127 is that they're getting rid of ordinances that are just burdensome for businesses. Mm-hmm. And this is the implication of that. This is directly like you can't have these rules anymore. Mm-hmm. You can't require construction workers get water breaks. Your base, these blue collar construction workers.
That's so
These
crazy.
are the guys you virtue signal to all the fucking time.
Well, water's gone woke. Water breaks are basically communism. And to be honest, if you need a break, you're not a real blue collar worker.
That's what
you got soft hands.
You're a sissy liberal.
You got soft hands.
You're saying you need a 10-minute water break. I haven't had water in 27 years.
Exactly.
I haven't had water since I got to the job site 27 years ago.
I've never seen water.
Why don't you hush
Only Bud Light, but then I had to stop drinking that.
That's right. Now I'm drinking a Budweiser, you sissy liberal.
Oh my God.
Sissy liberal bitch. Well, Chihuahua also said, quote, they try to make one size fits all, and that's not how it should work. These ordinances just add confusion and encourage people to do the minimum instead of doing the right thing.
What? Yeah, companies known without regulation for giving you very long and generous break time. Yeah, that's what companies do.
It really is. It really is. And also, it's funny because you may say, Gage, maybe you're being uncharitable to the Texas House. Like, maybe they just didn't consider that these workers aren't going to have water breaks anymore when they pass this, and overall it's good for businesses. Mm-hmm. And to that, I would say that House Bill 495, offered by Rep. Teresa Meza, Democrat from Irving, and House Bill 4673 by Representative Maria Luis Flores, Democrat from Austin, both aimed to implement 10-minute water breaks every 4 hours for construction workers. Mm-hmm. They didn't make it through session.
Aww.
They didn't make it through session. Texas Republicans willingly voted down water breaks for construction workers. And I just want to add some extra context here that I think really is just the cherry on top. Texas has had the most heat-related deaths in the country.
Of course.
Like, heat-related, work-related deaths in the country. Mm-hmm. Out of all the states.
I can imagine.
You're working in construction. You're working in the summer rays, the Texas heat waves.
Oh my God.
And you're going to say they don't deserve mandatory water anymore?
The contempt and disregard that Republicans have for their own voting base is so insane. They want to kill you. Like, they're killing you, right?
No, literally, because OSHA and fucking unions have come out to say this is going to increase workplace deaths.
People are going to die.
Like, guys, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Oh my God.
What are you doing?
This is, like, unironically, like, be all seriousness. Yeah. This is why I can't take libertarians and deregulation type seriously. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just such an unserious ideology. You're going to sit here and tell me that water breaks or something similar, breaks in general, required breaks by the state, are losing the country billions. Like, this is why crony capitalism exists.
These are bogging down businesses.
This is slowing down commerce in your state. Like, no, it's not. It's making sure that people can survive on the job.
Guys, imagine how much faster they could, build this building if every 4 hours they didn't have one 10-minute break. Mm-hmm. Imagine, we could probably finish it like an hour quicker, maybe.
Right.
That really adds up over time. On this 6-month project, we could probably finish it like an hour quicker, and then I could pay them less.
Oh my God.
It's a fucking win-win, baby.
I want construction workers, I want every worker being fanned by the CEO on a beach with drinking a martini whenever they want, you know, and like, I want every worker to be treated like a king or a queen or royalty, you know, if we want to be gender inclusive.
Yeah, for sure.
A 10-minute water break is like bare minimum.
It is absolutely
like, what are we doing?
Every 4 hours in like 100-degree heat.
Mm-hmm. So silly.
And what makes it so much worse is the fact that Democrats tried to pass bills that would reinstate this one rule, and they said no.
Yeah.
Like, that's just an admission that, like, that's I don't get it. I fundamentally don't who is this bill for?
Yeah, it's just like we covered a bill a couple of months ago, I want to say, that was like, it had inside the bill like protected classes.
Yeah.
And Democrats tried to add the LGBTQ to that group. And they were like, no. And it's just explicitly yep, this is an anti-gay bill. Like, that's the point. Like, same thing here. It's just an anti-worker bill. It's just meant to hurt people.
I don't understand, like, what lobbying interest outside of the Texas ABC is out there just like, yeah, we really need to pass this. Mm-hmm. Who seriously thinks it? They're so fucking dumb. These conservative politicians are so fucking unimaginably stupid. This is your base.
Well, and it's like, there's the common mantra is every regulation is written in blood, right? There's a reason these exist. And I think the assumption that they operate off of, or that they say they operate off of, is that, oh, well, these companies are going to implement water breaks anyway. They'll do this anyway because they'll have to if they want to get workers. No, they won't. We can look to the past and see what deregulation looks like. People were dying in coal mines. People would die on construction sites because there wasn't a state to step in and protect the interests of workers, protect the life of workers. That's the reason these regulations exist.
And it's also just another brilliant example of how conservatives disingenuously always talk about small government, but small government is really, we want government only so small as what we can all control as conservatives, right? That's why it always comes down to state rights, so that Texas can do whatever the fuck it wants. Because how is this small government? This is unironically the state as an actual state, not the nation state, but like the state of Texas, overreaching and saying that local municipalities can't pass regulations for workers. That's what this bill does. It says that you cannot pass an ordinance within your county, municipality, whatever, that regulates labor. Only we can do that at the state level. What?
Yeah.
What?
Crazy.
And then we're not going to pass the regulations that we're good?
How is this small government at all? You're taking away from communities the ability to design laws that they think benefit their people. Like, I thought conservatives loved small government. Yeah. Like, whittling down the power of large government structures so that people have more freedom and control of their life. But apparently not. No. And that's the thing, right? Like, small government, the things that they run on, this idea that they love small government's always been a farce.
Absolutely.
They love big government. They love government.
It's small insofar as what they can control.
They love government deferring power to capitalists to just control everyone else's lives. It's all about power structures and what benefits them directly. Yeah. Yeah. How free are you if you don't get a water break? How free are you really going to feel? Not very free, I would argue. It's bad.
It's baffling.
That is quite beyond parody.
Truly beyond parody. Texas is just popping off with these bills. God damn.
I feel like our Beyond Parody sections used to be indulgences. You know what I mean? We would find some one-off news story, like that random woman from Texas that was calling like the Chinese congressman evil.
Enemy of the people because he was Chinese.
And, you know, people could write those off pretty easily. It's like, oh, that's a one-off case. But now we have like the state of Texas, the Republican Study Committee just wanting to do terrible things.
Yeah, our Beyond Parodies, they used to be like, I don't know, like interpersonal racism. Now it's this
Now it's the state deregulating so workers don't get water breaks.
Yeah.
And it's like tons of conservatives in the national legislature saying that they don't want to feed the kids, or they want to make it impossible to feed the kids.
It's like the inflation of Beyond Parody has been really crazy because like things that used to make it in, I feel like aren't. Like they're just regular stories.
Yeah.
Like Beyond Parody, it's just it's past the tipping point, really.
I bet you could look back at very old Beyond Parody sections where it's like, wow, this crazy anti-LGBTQ law, it's
and
just
you're
insane.
like, wow, that's tame.
And then now we're coming, we're like, I wish we could go back then.
Fuck.
Things were better.
It's just like the way that Beyond Parody has inflated. It's just like how Hiddo episode lengths have inflated because of the increasing patron list.
Exactly, precisely.
You know what I'm saying?
Keeps dragging the episodes out.
Exactly.
Not in a bad way, in a great way, in fact.
No. I'd love for our episodes to get longer.
Yeah, exactly. So before we go, we got to give a special thanks.
You know we have to give a special thanks to
Cricket Scrapbook Layouts, Nikki Nine Lives, Caden Kraut, Lord T the Radiant, Chris the Postman, Christy Beck, Talia Katz, 40% Spite, Andrew Harris, Mike Chaplinsky, Matty T, Omar Zuno, Clayton LaFed, Mark Yeager, Sarah McRoberts, Dylan B. Kaz, Caleb Joy, Jim Bobs, Carl D, Rich Toro, Tari, Gavin Meyer Maldonado, Hunter W, Fergalaki, Max Vasquez, Jacob Rogers, Colton Mooberry, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Jeff Muzzy, Bagel Burrito, Cincy Alex, Bread, Joe Stenstrom, Adrian Sandoval, Chloe Sam 601, Colleen Cuts, Gregory Is My Name, Bear Yuk, Jennifer DeVoe, Big Bird Chitty, Crawfish, and Benneth Bennington III, Alexia Benanti, Nietzsche, Big Booty Beatdown, Moises T, Sam Maloney, Two-Headed Boy, Ben Shapiro's boyfriend, Jonathan Cassis, Luke O'Shea, Cucker Tarlson,
Danielle Jackson, The Word of Microsoft, Jennifer Sines, Aaron and His Gundam Gundams, Darth Father, Aiden Taylor, Corey Chambers, Sewer Snack, Ellie N, John Glover, Weed Thief 69, Devin Hatchard, Retro Mondo, Meatball Minion, Emma the Dude Slayer, Claire McMillan, Breezy B, Elijah Murray, Veronica aka V, Raccoon, Ash Smith, The Grotler, Magic Ian 95, Flower Clown, Jasper Hengares. It always fucking trips
Every
me
time.
up. Every goddamn time.
Got to practice that in the mirror.
Maybe. Beetlebugs, Three Co's in a Trench Coat. Lonnie Rogers, that's another one that I know she DM'd us and
She said
that,
you got it right,
She said
and I
Gage
got it
says it
wrong.
right.
Yeah.
I've been freaking out all week. I'm like, I couldn't remember how I said it. I was like, wait a minute.
That's that Gage supremacy.
But that's got to be it, right? Lonnie Rogers,
Yeah,
where was I on the list? Long list, big list, and I appreciate it. Slavic and Sapphic, Casey Lynn Kelly, Snake Eyes,
In Hope of Giants.
In Hope of Giants, you know I can't read. AK Gone, Equanodon, yeah?
I think. Did they
Like Atlanta.
Did they miss it? Oh no, that's the
No,
next
that's
one.
different. Fuck, dude. It's meshing. Zach Lantian.
There we go.
There we go. Info Russell, Austin Grieve, Marcus Corbett, Caleb Roper, and Jeremy's mom for supporting the show on Patreon.
Thank you all so much.
As you know, if I fucked up any of those, yell at us in the DMs.
Yeah, get
DM
angry.
us on Patreon, DM us on Instagram. You know exactly what to do.
It's crazy looking through that list. I remember where we used to stop at certain points.
I was
where it
thinking
used to
about
end.
that as we were halfway through. I was like, I remember when we started switching on and off. And we're just way past
Yeah,
that.
I'm reading through the names. I'm like, we used to stop right there. Not anymore.
Yeah.
You all support us on Patreon.
Benneth Bennington III.
And you all allow us to get upgrades like these new mic arms.
Absolutely.
You allow us to do
It's
cool
fucking
things.
bitch to put in.
More cool things coming in the future very, very soon. Stuff on its way, if
I've
you will.
spilled blood in the studio now.
I have, yeah. We put our sweat and tears into this episode.
Ridiculous.
So thank you all for listening to the episode.
Hope you have a fantastic week.
See you next time.
Goodbye.